Ladies and gentlemen, what's up YouTube? So as you can see, probably from the thumbnail, and I'm gonna have a picture up somewhere, this is the map where Israel is on the globe. Now, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, why are a bunch of white people fighting over this section of the world? That's the real question that I want to tackle today. You see, because once again, this is an incident of white people stealing shit that doesn't belong to them and making a whole case about how it belongs to them when there's no sense as to how that can even be. How are a bunch of Europeans, a bunch of white people fighting over a section of land that is way over here, damn near on the African continent? Riddle me that. Nothing white or pale grows from this part of the world. Anything that exists on this part of the world has color in their skin. Ladies and gentlemen, how on God's green earth are white people making a bold claim and a bold fight about how this is their shit? I'm sorry, once again, do we not read the Bible? Everything on Onedo's thoughts, I'm going to connect it to God, and it's going to be connected to the Bible. Because that's who we are as black people. Like, we have to come to this realization, and we have to stop messing around. Because the more we mess around and just let our history go, is the more other people have access to our history. Who are some of the richest people in the world? Jews. Jews are pretty much funding Hollywood. People who are out here claiming to be from this part of the world. If all the money they have comes from this part of the world and they are not from this part of the world, nigga, they're stealing funds. This part of the globe, nigga, this is African land. And the way they've changed the world, the way they've changed the maps, the way they've changed geography, I know right now, I think it's like the Suez Canal. I forgot where it is. I probably should have done a little bit more research before I made this video, but y'all know a lot of my stuff is just free flow. I turn this on and I go. But they changed the geography to make Israel seem like it's more connected to, I think it's Italy, more towards Europe, versus actually showing that no, it's connected to Africa. This is connected to Egypt. Like, this is literally African land. That's why they were cutting through the Red Sea to get through Africa. Like, ladies and gentlemen, we go off the Bible. We go off what God says. And people who are like, oh, the Bible is a book written by man. Yeah, along with every other book on planet Earth. I don't see you disputing your science book. I don't see you disputing your math textbook that you read in school. I don't see you disputing your history book, your calculus book, your literature, all these books. Every book on earth is written by man. It's a matter of what inspired you. God either inspired you or the devil inspired you. And if you're not sure if God is who inspired you, then I won't say like the devil is who certainly inspired you. Because sometimes you might get godly inspiration without really fully being aware of where you're going, and your life has to grow to realize, oh, that was God really hooking me up, and that was God talking to me. But I digress. My main motivation for this video is how are a bunch of white people fighting so adamantly about a land that clearly has nothing to do with them. Clearly. Africans were in Egypt. Egypt is in Africa. Just side note, in case nobody realizes this. I think the way the world pushes Egypt, they push Egypt for people to not realize this is in Africa. They try to make it seem like Egypt is its own place. Or if it is connected, they try to connect it more maybe to like a Middle Eastern place. No, motherfucker, Egypt is African. Egypt is in Africa. Everything America is African, because America is modern day Egypt. Everything America is Africa. Like, yo, the biggest you're welcome. I mean, I'm so cocky as an African sometimes because I know our history. And I'm not saying that to like pump myself up. I'm saying it because I want more Black Americans to really step into this, because you're not going to be free until you really step outside of America to see your power outside of America, to see your power separate from America. Like, Africa is the business. Africa is it. That's why America tries so hard for you Black Americans to never connect to Africa. Because the minute you do, you realize you don't need these motherfuckers. They need you. Everything America has, America will not be able to stand without Africa. Spiritually, it is ancient Egypt. Physically, it is ancient Egypt. A lot of their symbols and their tools, the way they, mainly symbology, we'll keep it on symbology. A lot of their symbology, which, if you know anything about spirituality, symbology is a language in itself. So if the foundation of America's language is symbology, because even just the landmarks and where they're built and what their emblems represent, these are all symbolic meanings. And symbology, like I just said, is a language. So if the very foundation of America is symbology, but all its symbology points to Egypt, which is in Africa, so all of America's symbology is African symbology. So therefore, America's foundation is African foundation. It's African knowledge. It's African wisdom. What's running America's energy is African energy. And I'm still digressing because this video is for Israel. Because I don't understand how a bunch of white people are sitting around here fighting for a Black land. When God's people were enslaved in Egypt, he brought them out of Egypt, said, hey, cross this sea, and this land is now where you're going to set up at. And now that's where we get Israel, that was made and given to God's people that he brought out of Egypt, which were just African people. Israelites are African people. They're just the Africans that chose to still stay with God. Let's understand that, because this whole world was African. Everything in this world was a Black person. Black was it. Entire civilizations was Black. But Black people started fucking up, thinking we don't need God anymore because we ruling. We got all this. God, nigga, miss me with that. Look, it's all me. God, like, oh, okay. You don't think to thank me for all the shit you have? Cool, I'm gonna remember that. Israelites are African people that were separated from the rest of Africans. All Africans were lit. Now we sit in thinking we don't need God, but within the mass population, there were some that, like, God, we still choose you. God, like, okay, cool. I'm gonna separate y'all. And now you guys are gonna be the Israelites. So it's Israelites are still Black people. Ooh, these are still African people, just the ones that still chose to stay with God, that he separated from the rest of Africans. Follow your history, Black people, especially like Black Americans. This is all for you. Everything God is doing, all the moves God is making in this world right now, you are at the core of that. You are at the center of everything God is doing right now. You are at the core of his judgment. Like, I need you guys to understand that majority of what he's doing is for you guys. It's not for Africans. It's not for Asians. It's not for Mexicans. It's not for this. It's not for that. It's for you Black Americans. Because that's where the majority of the Israelites were taken from were brought over here. They were spread out to the South Americas. They were spread out everywhere. Every African right now in the diaspora, these are God's chosen people, basically. These are Israelites that were scattered because Israelites too started joining in, thinking you don't need God. Now, I'm still digressing from my point, because what I want to focus on is how we are letting a group of white people, and we're not, this will be such a long video if we were to go into detail as to how white people even arrived in Israel in the first place. Long detail, long story, go read your Bible. But it has to do with how they were the ones who persecuted Christ and all that. It's a long history that they will never teach you in school. They will never teach you black people your history in school. Oh my God. But they will 100% remind you that you are a slave. Can you imagine? They will 100% remind you black Americans that you are nothing but a slave. But they will never talk to you about your history. They will never talk to you about who you were in Africa, who you were after you came out here, who you were upon being born, who you are according to God. They will never talk to you about nothing real about your history. How did you guys really end up here in America? That's what you need to be exploring as black people. How did they pick the ones they chose? That's what you black Americans need to be figuring out. How did white people choose the black Americans? How did they choose the blacks, the Africans that they wanted to bring out here? You see, we believe it's just because, oh, well, West Africa is closest to, the Atlantic Ocean, so it's closest to the shores for them to be able to gaffle them up. Not true. Why did they really choose West African people to be the ones to come out here? And there's some from Central Africa, but majority of black Americans come from that West African region. Why is that where they chose them from? Because that's where a lot of the Israelites had settled. That's where a lot of the Israelites had eventually settled after being moved and transported from the top of the globe and around of Africa and here to there and Morocco and inside, and check the history from them going up to Portugal and all this shit. Eventually, they have ended up in West Africa. That's why they were chosen from there. They will never talk to you about that in this country. They will never show you that history. They will only remind you that you were a slave. You are so much bigger. Whoo! You black Americans don't even know how that's where like my angst and my frustration comes from with you guys. And I don't blame you guys. If God doesn't show you, you won't know it, because this world is not set up for you to know it. If God didn't pull me aside and just really had to spend extensive amount of time really working with God, I wouldn't have known. This world is not set up for you to know the truth. If my mother wasn't so hardcore into God, so therefore she instilled godly teachings and godly principles, what my mother did was instill a very strong understanding of God in me. And without that foundation, I strayed away from it, just growing up, but that was my foundation. So it made it easy to kind of come back to. It made it easy to understand. If my mother didn't implement such a strong foundation of God in me, I wouldn't know the truth. So whenever I say like, oh, it's annoying when black Americans don't get it, I'm not saying it to judge. So please hear my heart. I fully understand how you guys don't get it. I understand how it's set up for you guys to not get it. I understand that. This world is a trap, especially America. America is made to be against you. They don't want you to know the truth. Because the minute you know the truth, you realize you don't need these people. You realize they actually need to be the ones groveling at your feet. They realize they got a lot of heat coming their way because, it's a vengeful season. Whether you black Americans claim it or not, God claims it for you. God claims your revenge for you. Because a lot of black Americans, I feel, a lot of the ones I talk to, a lot of the ones I hear, a lot of the ones I've watched videos on and stuff like that, it's like, man, y'all don't have that vengeful spirit. Y'all don't want no revenge. You don't want justice. You just want to be able to get along and fit in and have nobody bother you. And I get it. If you've been dealing with madness, you just want to be like, you want to feel normal. I get it. But you're not normal. That's what you black Americans have to come to terms with. You're not normal. You're bigger than normal. What? Normal? What? Normal? That's small shit. Do you know how big you are? As black Americans, you are big. You are mighty. Coming from freaking Africa, don't let America steal that wealth from you. That's why the Jews are running everything in the world with all their money, because they are out here in a land that does not belong to them. So all their resources is coming from this land. That shows you black people how much resources you have that they are stealing and using and claiming that it's theirs. Nothing in this part of the world produces white. Nothing. If you come from this part of the globe or flat, globe, flat earth, whichever you believe, if you come from this part of the world, you can never be a white person and this land will produce you. No, it doesn't happen that way. All that sunshine, fuck out of here. That's just a joke, but that's real. This land grows black people and brown people. It doesn't grow Caucasians. Caucasians grow from Europe. It doesn't grow yellow people. Yellow people grow from a little bit further over. It doesn't even grow brown like brown Latinos. Technically, like Middle Easterns, they'll say they're like the sandy brown. It is what it is, man. I don't care about all that shit. So how you have a bunch of white people in the midst of all these brown lands talking about it's their shit. You got Ben Shapiro's punk ass every second that man like a little whiny bitch standing up trying to defend his land that doesn't belong to them. Like, I'm not going into detail in this video as far as how they ended up there and all. That's a little too much history to cover right now. That I don't feel like going into detail. Right now is just, if you can even begin to ask that question, you're on the right track. If you can begin to even think of that question, you're on the right track. Because sometimes common sense, like, it just comes down to that. Sometimes it's not even about dealing with the complex issues. Sometimes you have to understand just the small, minute understanding. Like, if as an African, I'm here in Asia talking about, oh, this is mine. Like, won't you be like, but Africans don't grow in Asia. Yellow people grow in Asia. Maybe I have, my parents moved here and now I'm from here. So yes, I can defend it, but they're not speaking of Israel in that sense. Like, oh, they moved here and they have just assimilated to the land. No, they speak of Israel like it is theirs and they own it and it has always been made for them. They speak of it like it was always meant for them. It was always theirs, and that's a lie. And we cannot continue to let lies just thrive. Like literally. That is like me being in the middle of Japan, screaming so loud how this is my shit. Like, what? You mean you just moved here? Nah, nigga, it's mine. Like, what? No. I'm sorry. Black people don't grow in this part of the town. Japanese people won't be wrong to be like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I think you're confused, because people with your skin color, they grow and they sprout a little bit further over. Now, if you moved here, that's something, but you can't say this is yours. I'm sorry, it doesn't match. So how are white people claiming to be Israeli when, I'm sorry, it doesn't match? And it's one thing that it doesn't match, but y'all got the resources to the whole world? Ah, nigga. Off some stolen property. Off some stolen property, but you guys are trying to rule the world. But let somebody go and steal a Twix bar out of a goddamn Target. They'll arrest your ass so fast for stealing. Yet these people are stealing countries and stealing nations and stealing resources, stealing minerals and gold and every fucking thing. They're stealing people. But you go steal a Twix bar, they're gonna have your ass hemmed up. I can't stand the hypocrisy. These people are literally stealing nations. But want to be out here, I'm in California. What's his name? Newsom signing laws to, go harder on retail crime. Like, are you kidding me? This whole country is a damn... whole country is one stolen project. But have the nerve to make laws telling you not to steal. Have laws telling you not to kill, but this country has killed anything in its way. They don't believe in not killing at all. They will kill you for pennies. Literally. But tell you not to go kill. Last time I checked, we are all human beings. Like, we came into this world the same way. Like Bob Marley said, the biggest man was also once a baby. So what makes him think he can come and rule and dominate over your life? I'm sorry, we were all babies. There's nothing extra about you. Can you walk on water? Oh, you can't? Oh, okay, well then you should have no authority over my life. That's the part that people need to start getting back to. Stop letting governments have so much freaking authority over you, over us. Like the minute people realize, like, no, people actually have the power, not just to sit back and let somebody keep telling you what to do and how things are supposed to be. Like you have no brain of your own. Oh my God. Like white people have done so much damage on this earth that for them to even open their mouth to tell somebody what not to do is like, man, 10 lashings. Like how are a bunch of pasty Caucasians running around here fighting like this is their shit, yet they don't even have any authority to be in here? Nothing white grows in these parts of town. And then they'll tell you, I won't be surprised. You can hear a white person. I can hear a white person be like, "Oh well, we earned it, or we bought our way." Like I've talked to a white person before, and they tell me, "Well, white people bought America from the Mexicans. That it was a legal transaction." I asked the bitch, "Okay, where's the receipts?" Like you're like miss me with this word. White people, they talk a good game. Y'all keep the deeds for your houses and the financing documents for your vehicles if you're purchasing and whatever. Y'all keep receipts for smaller things. How much more a big ass country? Yeah, you better go find me the receipt if that's your reason or excuse. How are a bunch of pale people fighting over a section of the world that they don't even belong in? They've gone in there illegally, like they do everywhere they go, claimed it as theirs, and have just been exercising power from that position. That's a damn shame. And people let it. That's the part that like, and people let it. People let it. Like Africa especially. Africa is the one that like, my God, can you guys hold on to your history for a minute? Can we hold on to ourselves for a minute? And not just let anybody always just be able to come in, take our shit, and say it's theirs. And just like do whatever. You got Ben Shapiro's ass hollering every second. Like he defending the cause. Nigga. Like all whites out of Africa. Period. Like that's just where it needs to come down to. Because everywhere white people go that is outside of Europe, they are there for diabolical reasons. They're not there to be sincere. And they have no good intentions, because in Europe, they ain't got shit. They got to leave Europe to come and find anything. That's why they had to leave to go to Africa to get anything. They had to leave to come here to America to set some shit up. The way Britain is thriving right now isn't because of anything from Europe. It's from all the shit they've stolen from Africa. Like, there's nothing in Europe. Every time you see white people leave and come out into the world, nigga, it's for diabolical reasons only. Man.